Putting it on my chain, wearing it round my neck. I'm taking my freedom, putting it in my car. Wherever I choose to go, it won't take me far. I'm living my life like it's golden, 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 golden, living my life like it's 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 golden, golden. I'm taking my own freedom, in my soul.
Yes, do you have any gentlemen? Happy Friday, yes. Even though I'm not gonna lie, I lose total track of the day, but it's okay. Happy Friday to everybody. Hello, hello. Thank you for coming in. It means so much for me for you to be here. Thank you. Come on in. We're gonna have fun tonight. Come on in. We're gonna wait just a few minutes, allow everyone to come in, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started because we have a lot to do. Hello, yeah. Tell me where you're watching from. And we have. Let's see. Missouri, ATL, Quebec. All right, Boston, New York, Snellville, Houston. Okay. What you guys with me? Albany, Covington, Chicago, California, North Carolina, Vegas, Dallas, yes, Jacksonville, Delaware. Come in. Wonderful. Hey. All right, so what we're going to do at 8:03, we'll go ahead and get started. So a little less than a minute. Hello. Go ahead. It's Friday, so you can't see it. You got to put this Friday in the bed. Marianne, I see you. Door. All right, 8:03. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I do have a website, naturescrushhandmade.com. So with that being said, let me do an introduction. My name is Janine Cousin with Nature's Crush Handmade. We formulate skincare and bath products. So tonight we are going to be playing in Glycerin soap, but I have some wonderful, phenomenal women who are helping me this evening, and I would just want to go ahead and introduce you to them. First, in-house, I have Patty, who has been working with me, it's been like a year, 2 years? Close to 2 years. So I want to introduce Miss Patty. I'm going to slide over here. Let her say hi to you guys.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to have some fun tonight.
All right. And then you're going to see some lovely ladies here. Some of them had purple in their background, but I have Miss Krishna. I have Shalita, Miss Adrian, Miss Karen Baxter, and Tanisha Lowe. These ladies, when you see their picture, are phenomenal business owners. Shalita Joseph of CPNS Boutique, Adrian of Unique Designs, Krishna is Beautifully and Perfect Boutique, right? Make sure I got that right. Okay. And Tanisha Lowe of The Tea Talk. And her website's The Tea Talk 7. And my best friend, who's always there for me, Miss Karen Baxter of Ms. Creative CEO. And that's how I know all these lovely ladies through her. So I wanted to go ahead and let you know they will be helping me this evening in the chat. I'm not going to tell you I may miss a question. I will miss a question. So they're going to help me keep track of your questions throughout this process. Okay. So we are going to go ahead and get started. First of all, put up ones if you are making soap with me, and put up twos if you're just watching. And I hope to see some ones. Oh, yes. The first one's a one. Yes. One. Okay, we got some twos. One. Yes. Yes. Okay, we got a lot of people watching. That's okay. That's all right. All right. Got some twos. We got all twos. So it looks like I have, okay, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you told me that you're making soap with me, because later on I'm going to put you on the spotlight and I want you to show me what you've done. Tonight is an interactive evening. So although I'm giving you the base of how to do it, I want you to use your creativity. I want you to formulate something that's unique to you. I'm just going to give you the know-how on how to do it tonight, okay? So I would love to see at the end of this what you create. All right, step number 1. We're going to get ourselves all prepped, okay? So we're going to go ahead to this overhead camera, which she's already done. And what I want you to do is I want you to take your soap base. We'll start with the clear soap base. And we're going to go ahead and get it all cut up so that we are ready. So we don't have to worry about keep coming back to this. I may not have told you to get a knife, but yes, you need a little knife to cut this. Okay. And for tonight, for the purposes of tonight, you may only need about half. I'm going to move mine over a little bit because I took some out, but about half of the soap is all you need. So I'm going to cut this here. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of this block back in its package. One thing about glycerin, as we're going to talk about a little later, I'm going to talk to you all about glycerin soap. It's a humectant, so it draws water. So you want to always make sure that you're storing your glycerin in something that is sealed. So I'm not sure if all of you have your glycerin soap that looks like this, where it's already scored. You can just cut at the score mark, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting mine. It's pretty easy to cut when it's scored. Typically, I buy my glycerin soaps in large 25-pound chunks, so it's a little bit more difficult, but when you buy it like this, it's pretty simple. Put that over to the side. All right. Make sure everybody's with me. When you are done cutting your clear, go ahead to your white melting pot and do the exact same thing. Get that all prepped. I'm gonna go a little bit over. With your white, do about 3/4 because we're going to end up using more of the white than we do the clear. So do about 3/4 of the, if you have a size like this. Okay, there are some that come a little bit larger. If it's larger, you can do half. Okay. Okay, so I do see one question. Someone asked me, why do I use both white and clear? Because you'll see in a minute actually. Clear is where you're actually going to see your embed in the soap, and the white we're going to color. So you can see this little white line I have here, the white layer here. That if it was clear, if everything was clear, it would look like this. You would see directly through the soap. So we're using white so that we can actually make things pop within the soap. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you, Tanisha. All right. Okay, so that's all cut up. For those of you who are making it with me, give me a 1 and let me know if you are finished with that part so I can move on. Okay. Excellent, 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 excellent. Still cutting. Okay, I can wait a second. You're fine. Okay. Yeah, and the thing is, these can actually, you can do whatever you want. And I'm going to show you some examples of some in just a moment. But Tonight, we're doing one with words in it, with the little letters in it. We're going to do love. And then we're also going to do some with some embeds as well. So we have two different ones we're going to work with. But just to kind of give you a sneak peek of an example, this was one I did for a conference. It's been 2 years now. And you can get as fancy as you want. So this was her logo. I have sparkles. Hopefully you can see it okay. I have sparkles in the clear. And then if you look on the side, there's layers. We have a white layer, a black, and this is a gold layer. So you can actually do whatever you want in these soaps. And what's beautiful, think outside of the box. Think about baby showers. Think about the favors for baby showers. Think about wedding favors. Think about, I mean, any reason whatsoever. So when I start doing the embeds, I'll give you some examples of that you can use. All right, for those of you who are making it with me, let's go ahead and start with about 3 cubes of the clear. And I hope that everyone who's making it with me is close to a microwave. That was one of the, what is it? One of the things you needed to make this. So hopefully you're all close by a microwave. We're going to go ahead and put this in the microwave now. I want you to put this in the microwave in your microwave safe glass container for 30 seconds. When you are melting, melt and pour, you do it in 30-second bursts. Don't put it in that microwave for 3 minutes because you're going to be calling me talking about my house stank. So 30-second burst until it melts. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this in the microwave now. "30 seconds. And while that is melting, that's it. While that is melting, we're gonna go ahead and prep our white. And for our white, let's fill it up as much as we can. So if we can get in about 5 to 6, that would be good. Okay, so as soon as my clear melts, I'm going to go ahead and get this in the microwave and start melting this at 30-second bursts. This is going to take longer, so I may have to do this 2 times. So a total of a minute, but only in 30-second increments. Okay, my microwave stopped. Let me check it out. Okay, 30 seconds. Hopefully you can see that. I still have little chunks in my soap. So I'm going to go ahead and do another 30 seconds. All right, you guys with me? Let me go through here. Let's see. All right, good. You know that the clear is glycerin. Okay, I missed that question. All right. So right now it's all melted, okay? Very hot. We're gonna let that sit for just a moment. You can use a spoon, you can use a wood stirrer, you can use a popsicle stick, whatever you have that's handy. If there's still chunks in your white, you just go ahead and put it on for another 30-second burst. But I'm still in the clear, so I'm just going to stir it and make sure there are no chunks in here. It's fine. So now I'm going to move on. I'm going to go ahead and get this in the microwave. 30 seconds. All right. So now that I have my clear, I don't know why I can't see that one. We're going to go ahead about the clear glycerin. Can you see what was? Okay. Just sharing information. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and use my soap mold. This is going to be the size of my soaps. As you can tell from this one, this is the size I'm going to use. We also have, hopefully you guys were able to purchase a letter mold. If not, it's okay. We'll just stick with the little hearts. And then I have a mold with little hearts. Now, guys, you don't have to do exactly what I am doing. If you have a happy face mold, that's fine. I have sports. That's fine. Stars. And martinis. After all, it's a Friday. So we have martinis. So whatever mold that you happen to have on hand that you want to use, that you want to be creative with, go for it. Tonight, I'm just going to show you how to do one that with the words love in it. And then we're going to do one with several different hearts. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit the next 30-second round on my microwave so that it can melt some more because I know it's not ready. All right. Oh, honestly, silicone is the only way to go with melt and pour because, I mean, you can't use, you see I have the wooden molds back there. You can't use a wooden mold without a silicone mold because silicone is going to give you that flexibility to pop it out. Okay, otherwise, it'll just be stuck there forever. You have to cut at it to get it out. All right, so hopefully you can see pretty well. What we are going to do is get the base of our soaps. So the base is actually going to end up being the top of our soaps. Okay, so we're working from the top up. Does everyone understand that? We're working from the top up. So let's go ahead and pour a very thin layer. And I'm going to show you this one and hopefully you'll be able to see it. A very thin layer at the bottom. And I'm going to do about 4 of these. And I'll do one over here. Okay. Whatever you are using to stir your soap, don't keep it in the melt and pour because it's going to harden up in it. So don't do that. So whenever you're finished, just kind of lay it on the side of the container that you're using. All right, so I have 4 thin layers. We are going to spray. Spray to glycerin soap is going to get rid of the bubbles, for one thing. And the second thing, alcohol to glycerin soap is like glue to paper. As we are doing these layers, if you don't alcohol the layer underneath, it is not going to stick. Once you pop it out, each layer is going to separate. So alcohol and glycerin, you have to use the alcohol. So again, it's getting rid of our little bubbles that we have. And we're going to let that harden up. Okay. Yep. Now I'm going to check on my white. So I can look at it and say it's probably not ready, but yeah, no. So I still have chunks in my white. So I'm going to go ahead and do another 30-second burst on my white. All right, how's everybody doing? You with me? If you're on camera, just give me a thumbs up. The alcohol, the strength of the alcohol doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It can be 91%, 90%, it can be 70%. I think the one I'm using here is 70. So it's okay. All right. See, I've got my white. I'm sorry, guys. I sing talk. And I realized that when I watched back on some of my YouTube videos, I'm like, why do I sing when I talk? But it's just who I am. So I'm sorry. Deal with me tonight. All right. Everyone is with me. What we're going to do is spell out the word love. Crafting and singing go together. I believe that. I believe that. So I am going to use a pipette. However, this was not on your list. I felt you had enough on your list. You can actually literally just kind of pour it into the letter. It's not a problem. If you happen to have access to a pipette, this makes it a lot easier. Okay, but again, you don't have to have it. All right, So I'm going to draw up some of my white. Let me see if I can move this over so you guys can see a little better. For you at home, don't move your mold because it'll start creating bubbles and ripples in your base. But I'm going to show you. Let's see. All right. So I'm drawing up the white, and I'm going to start with my L. I'm just going to pour it right in here. Then I'm going to go to my white. We're going to use scent in the soap, just not yet. You don't want to put scent in your clear soap base. I don't want any scent here because it's going to cloud it up. So we keep that just free of any scent, but we will be using scent in our when we start to color our soap. So don't worry, it's coming. All right. Now I'm going to go to my V. Again, if you don't have the letter mold, it's okay. We're going to move on to the hearts in just a moment. And my E. All right. So I've poured them in. What am I going to use next? For those of you watching and not making, what do I use next? I've poured in some soap base. What do I need to use? Yep, my alcohol. Let me spray it. Get rid of any bubbles they may be. Thank you. Someone's listening. Yay. All right. So now I have my letters that are going to harden up. I have my soap base that's going to harden up. So now let's get on to our little embeds. So I have a bunch of little hearts here. So this is where your creativity can come and play. Throw that away. So I am going to color this base and scent it. For the sake of this, the tutorial, I'm going to do it all one color. However, if you're at home, what you can do, you can separate this base out into maybe 2 or 3 other containers, and you can have all different colors. As a matter of fact, what I will do is I'm going to start with one color, and then I'm going to add another color just to make a different color, and then go on from there. So let's start off with, I have a red, a rose color that I purchased at Michael's. It came in this. I actually did a video showing me purchasing everything. So, but whatever colorant, now you don't want to use food coloring. So if you're thinking I'll just use my food coloring, it's not a good idea. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and put in my red. Actually, this is pink. I lied. Hold on. Let me grab my red. There we go. Ruby red. So I'm going to start off with a couple of drops. You notice how it has a little skin on the top of the soap. So this soap probably is going to have to go back in the microwave eventually, but we'll start with adding some color. Start off with a small amount and then keep adding until you get the desired color. Everybody okay? All right, so you see this looks a little bit more pinkish. So I'm going to try to add a little bit more red. When you're working with white soap base and you're adding red, it's going to be more pink. Okay, if I just took the clear and added red, it would be more red. So I'm probably not going to get that red with a white soap base, if that makes sense, but I can make it a little bit darker.
Janae, you have a couple of questions in the chat.
Yes, ma'am.
One of them is, does the room need to be a certain temperature while soap making?
Not for glycerin soap. No, because you're heating it up. And the thing about glycerin soap, which is beautiful, is called melt and pour soap. So as you can see, mine became liquid pretty quick. But if it does harden up, I would just put it back in the microwave, warm it back up. So no, your room doesn't. Go ahead.
Okay, and the next one is that ink, or what kind of coloring are you using?
Definitely not ink. This is actually soap colorant. Okay. Let me see if it says it on here. Yeah, this one actually from Michaels, it says glycerin colorant. You want to use soap or glycerin, well, in this particular case, glycerin colorant, because it's body safe. Ink, no, you will end up being whatever color you decided to color your soap. Your body would be that color. So definitely soap colorant. Very, very important. Anything else, Karen?
That's it at the moment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm going to go on to my little hearts here. So again, I'm going to use a pipette. If you want to, you can pour in. When you're pouring, especially in little molds like this, it'll become messy and it'll overflow the hearts and so forth. It's okay. When it hardens up, we can easily clean that up. So don't stress over it. But for the sake of just trying to keep things a little neat, I'm going to use my pipette and start filling some of my hearts. So let's see. I may do about 5 or 6 in this color. Then I'm going to add a different color or change it up a little bit.
Barbara Lee asks, how can we rewatch this?
Okay. Thank you. It's actually going to be on the Michaels platform and also on their YouTube channel. So once this is done, they'll have it there. You can replay the class at that time. And also the Michaels YouTube channel.
Can you use mica? Would mica work?
Okay, so yes, you can use mica, but I can tell you that mica, it's very hard to mix in glycerin soap. You have to work it a lot harder, but you can. But preferably, if you can use a liquid colorant, that's going to be your best friend versus a mica powder. I did. Okay, yep, I sprayed it with alcohol. Sorry, my Patty's over here telling me sprayed it with alcohol. Okay, I sprayed it with alcohol. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in, I'm using the colors that I have from there. I'm going to add in orange. I don't know what color this is going to turn out, but hey, let's have fun. Add in some orange.
Miss Bianca wants to know, how do you make a flower?
With a mold. I actually, if you noticed this one here, I don't know if that's what you were looking at here, but it was actually a mold like that. And I just poured in the mold just as I'm doing here. Okay. They have molds for everything. As a matter of fact, I'll show you a few real quick. If I wanted to do a baby shower gift, I have little undie shirts, pink and blue, that I made them. I have little baby blocks you can do for a baby shower gift. I have a football here. We have rubber duckies. So literally you can find these molds everywhere. I even have little baby feet.
The next question is, how do you do an image?
I'm going to show you in just a moment.
Okay. And then also, how do you put the rolls inside the mold?
We're going to get to that too. So what we need to do, I'm just mixing colors here. So you do not have to follow these exactly what I'm doing. I'm just trying to mix colors to get a different color. And to me, it all looks pink. So I'm going to go in my stash of colorant. Hang on. Let's see. Just to try to change it up just a little bit. All right. Well, it's a darker pink than the first one. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of that. And a few of my hearts. What embeds are you guys using tonight? Are you using the little hearts or are you using something else? I think I just saw about something about the colors fading into the soap. That basically, as far as when you are pouring it, you just want to make sure that your soap base is not too hot, because if it's too hot, it will melt the previous layer, and that's where you have the the colors fading into each other. Do you see any replies, Karen, as far as what soap molds people are using, or anybody?
No, not at the time. Having to use letters. Oh, she's using letters as because she didn't have get the other one. Hearts were sold out, so she found another shape. April Johnson says.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Pat Lewis is using a loaf.
Oh, okay, you fancy. Okay. She said, "I'm not doing your little thing. I'm doing a whole loaf of soap." Okay.
Another
cool.
says she's using letters to embed.
Okay. So we're going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you how to use these little embeds. And this is all I'm going to do here. That should be enough. And then the pictures.
Someone,
Okay.
Jaybird says that she has a rectangle mold and heart gems. Another one has lipstick and heels.
Yeah, I have that one too. I know exactly which one you're talking about. All right, so you see my bubbles here. I'm going to spray them out. Oh, Jaybird, you know we're going to have to highlight your soap. You shouldn't have told me about the lipstick and heels.
Tiffany says, what about the scent?
We're going to get to that. I'm not putting it in the embeds, but as soon as we get to that top layer, this layer right here, that's when we're going to color. I'm sorry, scent. All right. So I'm just going to move this to the side. So while everything is hardening up, we're going to give that some time. Move this out the way some. All right, so if we can go back to my face real quick. Thank you. So while that is hardening up and you guys are still working on your project, I want to talk to you a little bit about glycerin and exactly what glycerin soap is. Glycerin soap is actually a byproduct of soap. So the same way that you can have cheese or cream that's a byproduct of milk, glycerin is a byproduct of soap. So what happens with our commercial soap makers? They have these huge, big pieces of equipment. And when they're making their soap, they have a system, won't bore you into all those details, but they have a way to extract all the glycerin from their soaps. Why? Let's talk about that. I want to ask you guys that. So glycerin is a humectant. It draws moisture to the skin. It's good for the skin. Your skin likes glycerin. It likes the moisture. So why would a huge soap company take the glycerin out of the soap? Any ideas? Why would they do that? Exactly. Right. Make you buy the lotion. Right. So if you take the moisture out of the soap and after you finish washing, because at this point, it's no longer soap, it's actually detergent. So you're washing your body and then you get out and you're like, I am dry. I feel like my skin has been stripped of any oils that I did have. That's why. So now guess what? They can sell a second product to you, lotion, moisturizer, cream, and glycerin itself is a big business. So they can actually take off this byproduct and sell that. That's a whole nother source of revenue for them. Okay. So if you notice on a lot of your soaps that you may buy, commercial soaps, a lot of them they can't legally say it's soap. They say beautiful words like, it's a beauty bar. It's a moisturizing bar. but it ain't soap. It's detergent. So that is one of the things about commercial soaps that's different from handmade soaps. So I also, of course, do handmade soaps. This particular bar is my oatmeal and honey bar, but the glycerin is intact in these soaps. So all the butters and the lye, everything is mixed in here, and the glycerin is left intact. So now that I mentioned lye, I have heard lots of people say, I make soap without lye. I have lye-less soap. That's a lie because all soap has to use sodium hydroxide, lye. All soap has to have that because it's the actual chemical reaction. The sodium hydroxide plus the fats, once they mingle in with each other, it's called saponification. And that whole chemical process is what makes soap. After it finishes that chemical thing it does, then the lye is no longer active in the soap. So don't let anyone tell you they have soap without lye, because then you need to question what they're doing, because all soap has lye. So that's how they start no matter what. Even commercially, that's how they start. Like I said, in the commercial end, they take the glycerin out, but all soap has lye. Okay. Let me see if I want to mention anything else about that. I think that's it. Any questions so far about what I discussed? Mm-hmm.
Well, I ran back a little bit. Sherry asked, first of all, Ziva asked, why do you want to only put the scent in the top layer?
And actually, that's going to be the bottom layer of the soap. And the reason being is because if I put the scent in the clear glycerin, the glycerin, if you start off with a colored top, you can put the scent in that. But in our case, we have clear. We're using the clear glycerin soap. If I put the scent in there, it's going to cloud it up and you're going to totally take away. You won't be. As a matter of fact, this is kind of a good idea. Good. This one is not from the scent, but this is because I poured too hot. So you see how it's a little cloudy? That, I don't know if you can see or not, that butterfly is not quite as clear as this one. Okay, so this is just because of pouring too hot. But if you actually set the top layer, that's what's going to happen, even worse. So you're doing this for no reason.
Okay. How about, Sherry wants to know, would you recommend using scents for baby gifts, and is glycerin safe for babies?
Okay, so glycerin, there's different types of glycerins. You have natural glycerin that you can purchase, and then there's glycerin that do have chemicals in it. Okay, personally, I probably would not, because most of the glycerin that you find is going to be made commercially versus the natural glycerin. So I would not use it on baby. I would stick with your handmade.
Okay. And Bianca says, so the glycerin we bought at Michael's is detergent?
Well, don't call Michael's out now. Don't call Michael's out. But this soap, no. What I was saying was, when commercial soap makers extract the glycerin, they are extracting this part of it. What they have left after they take the glycerin out is detergent, because they've taken a component of the soap out. It's no longer soap. So it's the actual soaps that you are buying commercially, that's detergent. Those beauty bars, those moisturizing bars. Okay. The glycerin is just a humectant. It's just that. It's glycerin.
Got it.
Hope that makes sense.
Ziva wants to know, is that the same with liquid body soap? I guess what you just explained, taking the glycerin off and stuff, is that the same thing that they do with body liquid soap?
It depends on the company, honestly. For the most part, yes. It's the same process. With liquid soap, the only difference they use, instead of using sodium hydroxide, they use a different type of lye. They use potassium hydroxide to keep it liquid, but it's the same process. So pretty much. Now, sometimes they try to add different moisturizing components to it to make you feel better, but for the most part, it's detergent. Again, you have some natural body care products that do make liquid soaps, and everything is intact. So you may want to look for that. I do not have liquid soap at this time, but there are a lot of makers that do make it. Okay.
Maya wants to know, how long does it take to harden?
It's ready. We're ready to go.
There you go. Want me to continue to ask questions, or you want to?
Go ahead. You could ask me.
Okay. Tara wants to know, do you do cold process or hot process?
I like cold process soap because I like cold process soaps typically are going to be a little bit more smooth. I can make pretty designs in it with my little swirls. When you're doing hot process soap, by the time it's finished in your heating element, you're literally just kind of plopping it into the mold. So hot process soaps typically look a little bit more rustic. I think that's a better word for it. Looks very rustic. The only difference between cold process and hot process soap is the fact that with cold process, I allow the saponification, that chemical reaction, to take its time, the 24 to 48 hours to saponify. With hot process, because of the heating element, you're actually forcing that saponification at that time. So technically, after you make a hot process soap, you can use it immediately, but whether it's cold process or hot process, you still have a curing time. You still want your bar to get hard. So no matter which way you do it, you still want to wait a couple of weeks for the bar to get hard. And I hope I didn't throw a whole lot on you on a Friday. I hope that makes sense.
Bianca wants to know, so how do you make handmade soap?
Well, funny you should ask me that, Bianca. I actually have classes on my website for cold process soap. I'm offering that. And for everyone who's here on this Zoom tonight, you actually get 50% off on the classes. And the ladies are going to put links to that, and it'll be throughout the class. So to be able to get that 50% off of the classes, I am offering that. Okay. So back to our little molds here. Hopefully everyone saw me pop out my L. So still pretty soft, so you can kind of bend it to make sure it's shaped properly. Now I'm going to pop out my O.
Janine, is lye healthy for your skin? Marina? No. Marina.
Absolutely not. If you were to take straight lye and put it on your skin, you would be in the hospital with burns. But the process of saponification, when you put lye and butters together at the proper rate, there's a whole calculation for this, okay? When you put them together at the proper rate, it no longer is lye. The chemical reaction changes it from lye. It's now saponified cocoa butter. It's now saponified coconut oil. Whatever butters you are using, it goes through a process. So that is why you have no problem using any of the handmade or any soap for that matter without being burned, because it's no longer lye. It's not an active lye anymore.
Okay, so Bianca is confused about, she says, so I am confused about the one she bought from Michael's is the one with chemicals in it. I'm not.
Well, I'll just put it this way. You can tell by the ingredients. It's still, now don't get it twisted, it is safe to use. Okay, if it was not safe to use, Michael's would not have it on their shelf. And I use these all the time for my glycerin soaps for showers and baby shower favors and things like that. So it's not that it is unsafe to use, but just know that there are different types. There are types of glycerin that's actually made in the lab, and there's stuff glycerin that's actually extracted naturally. So you have, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, we got a lot of questions. Velma wants to know, how long does it take for the soap to fully set?
About 30 minutes.
Okay.
Long at all.
Kim wants to know if there is glycerin left in the soap, because it's usually listed in the ingredients.
And this soap here?
I think that's what she probably is talking about when you're talking about how the soap, they extract the glycerin from the soap, and she's saying, well, when she reads soap, she sees the word glycerin on there. So is that, do they leave any of the glycerin in there?
Probably a portion of it in there, but for the most part, it is not the same. As I mentioned in the beginning, when you are making soap, there's a whole formula. So I know according to how many butters I'm using and the lye, this whole process, this is what's going to make my bar of soap. The fact that they took any portion of that glycerin out changes the composition of the soap, which does not make it soap anymore. So they may say there's glycerin in there, they may add a little bit of glycerin in there, but it's not the same as a handmade soap.
Are those special? I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
Did you mean, are those special gloves that you have on?
No. No. And honestly, you don't even need to wear gloves for this. You know, especially if you're making it for yourself, there's no need to use gloves. It's a habit for me to wear gloves, but I'm not using any good practices at this point. If I was making soap or a product for anybody, my hair would be in a hairnet and I'd have a mask on my face along with the gloves. So you don't need gloves for this. I'm not going to lie. I need a manicure. Okay. So this was a perfect hide. So I knew my hair would be up in the camera. Thanks for calling me out. But it's okay. So no, you don't need to wear gloves. Okay. I'm going to show you guys real quick how to put these letters in, because I want to show you guys the picture soaps. And then Karen, if you can hold on to those questions for me.
Sure.
All right. So let's start off with our love first. Now I'm going to show you one thing. Hopefully you guys can see it. So this is white on white. You see that you can't even see the letters. So since our letters are white, we're going to make sure that our base has a color so that you can see this. So for me, I have the L-O here, and then I have the B-E here. You can put this in your soap any way you want. If you can put it straight across. You can, however, you can put L-O-B-E, however you want to do it. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine on my first little soap base. But before you do, alcohol. We need it to stick. Let's see. I think I'm going to do the L-O on top of each other and then the V-E on top of each other. So you can use, of course, your fingers as I'm doing here. Or you can use little tweezers to kind of have a better handle on the soap.
Now, Janine, can I ask this question? You're putting those letters in reverse so that when they flip it over, they look right.
Thank you, David. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sometimes you're doing things and you just automatically do it. Okay. You have to remember how we are making this soap. It's like this, face down. So when we turn this up, in order for it to read correctly, I actually have to put this in backwards. So if I was putting this, I wish I had my name. So if I was going to do my name, Janine, instead of it being from left to right, Janeen, I would actually do it opposite, from right to left and backwards. So hold on one second. I'm gonna give you some letters and show you. J T A T A S. Yes. Okay. So say if I want to do the word sat. So normally you would have it like this. Correct? But in our soap, we're going to do it backwards. Okay, my S is a little wonky, but it'll be all right. I'm going to do it backwards. So I'm going to do my S, turn it backwards. The A is okay the way it is, A. And the T is actually okay the way it is, T. That's how it's going to look in my soap. So that when I turn my soap over, it's going to be the right way. Everyone with me? So backwards, from left to right, and also the words, the letters need to face the opposite direction. So in this case, let me get something that's not so universal. If I was going to do P, instead of my P being this way, I would put my P in this way. All right, glad y'all got it. You're like, okay, move on, Janine, we got it. All right, so that's how I'm doing my love right now. Putting it in backwards from left to right. And trust me, I have done soaps where I've had one letter turned the wrong way. Like, argh! Okay. So let's see. Hopefully you guys can see that. Can you see it okay? All right. So I have the L, the O on top of each other, my V and my E facing backwards. I'm going to spray and let that sit for a moment. And now I'm going to take out some of my hearts. Or Jaybird, your high heels. Okay. Now with this, you can put them in nice and neat if you want to. You can just toss them in the soap if you want to. It's totally up to you. All right. So again, with your end beds, because remember the bottom of this soap is actually the top. So you want to make sure that you have the flat side of your end bed facing down, not up. You see how this indents a little bit? This is the bottom of the end bed. I want to make sure that this flat side is facing down on my soap. So I'll just put a couple of hearts randomly. Right. And you design it any way you want. Okay.
Janae, what lye is good for soap making? Liquid or the grainy one in a can?
The grainy one again. Okay, let me show you. This is sodium hydroxide. I use this to make my hard soaps, my solid soaps, like this, okay? If I was going to make liquid soap, I would be using potassium hydroxide. So it's not a matter of, it just depends on if you want liquid or if it's going to be solid, that's it. All right, so potassium for liquid, sodium if I was doing a hard bar. Does that answer your question?
I believe so, hopefully so.
It doesn't, let me know.
What about vegan made soaps?
Okay. Vegan is just the butters and stuff that you use. So instead of using tallow or lard, you wouldn't use that because that's an animal-based fat. You would just use fats that are based off of like coconut, shea, you know, all those butters. That's the only difference between a vegan-based soap is that they don't use any animal products.
Okay. Pat Lewis wants to know what's the best way to clean up.
The this one, hot water. Hot water's your friend. Actually, the best thing to do, like for instance, if I didn't use any of this, I would put it back into the microwave and let it go back to liquid. I would pour it into one of these molds, take a paper towel, clean it out, because you really don't want a lot of the soap going down your drain. So I would take a paper towel, clean out whatever's left over, and then wash my vessel. And then you can just use the excess soap for soap. Or if you don't want it, you can throw it away. Something Patty hates to hear over here. All right, so I have some hearts over here. I want to do something different. I'm going to do my little baby one and this one. And I'm going to do a little rubber ducky in my last one. All right, so I have my embeds in. We're good there. All right, so let's go ahead. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to our clear melt and pour. So you probably are going to have to add a few more chunks of the clear into your container, because what we need to do is kind of seal our embeds in place. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put some more of my clear melt and pour in the microwave for 30 seconds.
Janine, Moreno, she says you answered my question a little because she brought the lye from the hardware store and it came in a can with a white grainy stuff. I guess it was white and grainy.
Yeah, this is white and grainy. So yeah, it's the same lye. It's the same lye. So don't do this ever, guys. This is not how you're supposed to handle lye, but just to kind of, for the purposes of showing you. Am I in the camera here? There you go. Do you see that? It's a powdery, flaky.
Mm-hmm. What about lye pellets?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. They come in different forms.
Okay. Krishna wants to know, is it okay to add items like coconut powder, rose clay, oat flour to glycerin soap? Is that only for the cold hot process?
No, you can use it in glycerin soaps. Just, be mindful that if you're trying to do anything decorative, obviously it wouldn't work well if you're trying to do embeds. However, if it was just going to be a solid soap and you wanted to add those additives, it's fine.
Velma wants to know, can soap be made without lye?
No, not at all. So if I saw someone who's confused, bear with me, guys. I want to explain. Again, glycerin is the byproduct of soap, just as cheese or cream is the byproduct of milk. Okay, so it all started the same way. They just extracted a portion of it to have the glycerin. So soap has to have lye, but once it goes through its chemical process, the lye is no longer active. Its whole composition changes. Okay, let me put my soap batter back on, another 30 seconds. So for those of you who may be a little ahead of me, if you are at a point you have your embeds in, what you're going to do is take it out the microwave and let it sit for a moment so it can cool down just a little bit before we pour it on our embeds, because if it's too hot, it's going to just melt your little embeds, or the color is going to, what's the word? Bleed. The color will bleed. Okay.
Velma wants to know, so do you put the lye in before you melt or after?
No, when you're purchasing this melt and pour, that's all you have to do. That's what it's called, melt and pour. When you purchase this, you're doing exactly what we're doing today. Okay, I am actually cutting up the little chunks, I'm melting it, and I'm pouring. That has nothing to do with cold process or hot process soap. This product is a melt and pour soap. That's it. So you don't have to worry about adding lye. Please don't add any lye to glycerin soap. So it's already done that process.
So basically, if they want, because they have a lot of detailed questions about lye, They just need to really take your course, your more extensive course that gets a little bit down and deep with that, right?
Right. When you're making cold process soap, that's when I go a lot more into detail about lye safety, how to use it and all that good stuff.
Akashita, I hope I'm saying Akashita. Please forgive me if I mispronounce your name. She wants to know, is this soap dangerous?
No.
Okay.
No. All
Grace
right.
wants to know the items you made ahead, like the little ducky, how long will it keep?
For as long as the soap. So what will happen is, as you're using the soap, the layers, just think about soap as you use it. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So you'll get to a point where you'll get to the little ducky. You're washing with the little ducky. And then you'll get down to the next layer and so forth and so on. So the ducky will keep as long as the soap lasts, and you can make them ahead of time. So it will keep. It will keep. So I think I've had this little ducky several months now. He's been this little ducky. So you can make your embeds ahead of time, but just make sure that you keep it sealed so that it doesn't actually, the moisture doesn't get into the soap.
At this point, can I add essential oils to the soap?
No, we're not there yet. Trying to get there. We're going to let this clear base cool a little bit. And then what we're going to do is top off all this. So what I'm going to do while we're waiting for that to cool slightly, I'm going to, for the sake of time, let me go ahead and show you guys the picture soap. Because I want this to cool some more. If you don't have a thermometer, it's okay. If you happen to have one, actually I can pour. If you happen to have a thermal thermometer, you can take the temperature of your soap base. You want it under 130 degrees prior to pouring it in. So mine right now is about 111, 112. So I'm going to go ahead and pour mine. Okay, but you can kind of feel the glass. If it's too hot, just wait. If it's a little warm to the touch, it's okay. All right, so you saw me go ahead and use the alcohol again because we need all of our layers to stick. And all I'm going to do is pour until the top of all my end beds are covered. That's it.
Can you add herbs or flowers to melt and pour?
You can. Honestly, it's just to make it pretty, because if you're just putting the herbs in by itself, it's just going to be pretty. But if you want the beneficial use of an herb, I would have it in oil. I would have it infused in oil and do other things like that so that you can actually have the benefit of that herb on your skin. Because if you just put it in something like this, okay, guys, I so lie because I want you guys to see this. Can you guys see my little melting embeds? So these are the two that I just made. So they're soft. So when you are making your embeds, if you can make your embeds the day before, that is great because they'll have a lot more time to harden. Because if you can see, my ducky is fine and my little undergarment here thing, baby undergarment is fine. The t-shirt. This junk is melting. So if you made one tonight and it's doing that, what you can do is go ahead and keep your additional embeds to the side, and you're going to repeat the process. I'm going to continue with the process just so you can see it, but you can keep your little embeds to the side till tomorrow and then go ahead and make your soap so it doesn't melt, or wait until this cools down a lot more before you pour if you want to continue tonight. Okay, so what I want to do is show you picture soaps. Okay, so with picture soaps, they look kind of like this. And these just aren't random people. This is my son and my soon-to-be daughter-in-law. Yes, proud mama. So I have them in a soap. Okay, so let's go over the process of how we're going to do that. First thing you will need, and I actually have a tutorial on my YouTube channel if you guys wanted to see it, but the first thing you're going to need is this paper solvy, water soluble paper. Okay, you can print on this paper, but you have to use like an inkjet or bubble jet printer. You can't use laser. So you would actually print whatever picture you want to use on the paper, like this. All right. And then what I'm going to do from that point, whatever mold I'm going to use, I want to go ahead and make a template. So in this case, I'm going to be using an oval. So what I did ahead of time is I actually poured a little bit of my melt and pour soap base in the oval mold to give me a template to work with, or you can use a little bit of paper template. Either one is fine. So what I would do is go ahead and place over what I want to be in my soap. So their faces I want to be in the soap. I would take my pencil and trace all around that. And then literally just take your scissors and cut it out. Sometimes I have round pictures, and I can take my cutter, my little stamp cutter, and punch them out, my little circles that way, if you don't want to cut with your scissors. So after I cut the picture out, it looks like this. Okay. Am I freezing up on you guys, or can you guys see okay?
We see it.
Okay. So I've taken the liberty of going ahead and doing some of these steps ahead of time. Can you guys see this? All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, the way we just started with our other soaps, I'm going to start with my clear soap base. And I'm going to go ahead and pour just a very thin layer at the bottom. Okay. Alcohol, all the bubbles out. And for the pitcher, I'm going to turn my pitcher face down to put it in. Before you actually try to put it in the soap mold, the soap melt and pour soap, I would make sure on a empty one, just make sure it fits nicely inside the mold, because what you don't want to do is trying to get it in the soap and it's all crinkling up because it doesn't fit properly. So make sure it fits nicely inside the mold. You pour your clear soap base, and now I'm going to go ahead and put my pitcher in as such. And if you can see, the soap is kind of taking it over. There you go. So now it's inside. Use a little alcohol. Okay. This next step, I already did that part that I just showed you. So now what I'm going to do is seal that pitcher in. I'm going to add some alcohol. And I'm going to do another very thin layer of the clear melt and pour. And then alcohol. Then we let that sit up. The third step, I've already done that sealing. Okay, so I've just progressed the soap here for you. Fast forward. What I want to do now is I want to put my color in on this part. This is hard, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in a microwave at my 30-second burst. And I'm going to alcohol this, pour in my color, and then let it sit. Or you can just make it white, just like I've done here. Okay. After it sits, probably about, like I said, about 35, 40 minutes, you can pop it out of the mold, and this is what you will have. So you can do pictures, you can do logos like I have here. You know, I showed you the one for the Black Girls Craft soap that we did. That's her logo. I have a real estate company. They actually have, it's like a little business card, and They look like little business cards, but they're soap. So long after you've met that person, they still have your soap with your company name on it. So I went to a networking event and I gave them these soaps, and everyone was calling me, thanking me for, saying it was a pleasure meeting you and so forth. But everyone said, I love my soap. So long after I've met them, they may have thrown away my business card, but guess what they're washing their hands with? And this stays in the soap for a while. So they're washing their hands, and every time they say, oh, Nature's Crush Handmade. Oh, Nature's Crush Handmade. Oh, Nature's Crush Handmade. It's a good marketing tool. Trust me. All right.
Janine, did you
Yes,
print?
ma'am.
Did you print the pictures in reverse?
No, I just print it like you normally would print.
Okay.
So my suggestion to you is to print your picture or whatever it is that you want to print on regular paper first and see how it would fit in your mold, because the paper solvy paper is a lot more expensive than regular paper. So print it on regular paper first to measure it out and make sure it's going to fit your mold nicely. And when you determine, yes, that's a good fit, then go ahead and print it on that paper. It's just like regular, you put in the printer just like you would regular paper.
William wants to know what happens to the paper.
It just washes away as you start using it. Yeah. Okay. So it's water soluble. So it's not a situation where like you're washing and all of a sudden you get these paper flakes. You're not going to get that. It literally just kind of washes away like the soap would wash away. So you're not going to get a big chunk of paper all of a sudden in your hands.
Gotcha. Bianca would like to know, so how do you put two different colors without, excuse me, I'm sorry. How do you put two different colors without blending them together?
So when you're doing this at home, you'll have more time. I'm trying to rush the process here, and that's what happens. But when you're doing this at home, what you want to do is let each layer harden nicely. Once that layer is hardened, so for instance, I started with this clear. When that clear was hard, I went with a small layer of my white. Okay, I walked away. Once that was hard, I came back, I poured in my black, and so on. You just have to make sure that each layer is completely hardened. A lot of patience. That's perfect.
Right. How many, Tamia wants to know, how many soaps can we make from this given material, and how much does one soap cost to make?
No, that's up to you and the fragrances that you use and so forth. Speaking of fragrance, in this picture soap, I could have put my fragrance in here, but we're going to go ahead and top these off. But with what you have, it depends on the size of your mold. I can't tell you exactly how many you would make if you're using exactly what I'm using. You could probably get about 2 of these full molds with what we have here. So what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8. So 16 soaps. And as far as cost, you talking to the wrong person. The wrong person was asking that question, because Ms. Karen Baxter always talks about our COGS. You have to look at your cost, your expenses of what it costs you to make the soap. For instance, like I told you before, I used to make them a lot. So I actually bought mine in 25-pound batches, which it's cheaper to buy in bulk. But if you're going to use the smaller ones, and it's just that every now and then, just look at the cost of how much this is going to cost, how much is the fragrance, how much is the colorant, how much time am I putting into this, and that's how you're going to determine the cost of your product. Okay. Okay. For the sake of time, this is hardened up some, so I'm going to go ahead. At this point, when it's hard, that's not hard. I'm trying to rush it, but when it becomes hard, at that point, you would put a little bit of your fragrance oil into your color. And again, the fragrance, is really kind of a scent thing. So like, for instance, if I had just this little bit of amount, I may put about 20 drops into this small amount. You can add more if it was a full soap thing here. I would definitely add more fragrance. And you just stir that in. If you want to use essential oils, that's fine. You know, I have one soap that's a jasmine gardenia. I use essential oils for that. So it all depends on what you want to do, how you like it to smell. You know, if you want the scent to be very mild, you put less. If you want a stronger scent, you put more. Every fragrance has its usage rate. But typically when you're working in smaller soaps like this, you shouldn't run into any problems. And I feel very safe in saying you shouldn't, unless you take like 5 of these bottles and pour it in there, then yeah, you're going to run into a problem. But typically if you're just using a few drops in there, you'll be fine. What layer? What was that question?
Well, you do have this one. Let's get this one. So will the ink from the inkjet pitcher be an irritant to the skin as it dissolves with use?
No.
Okay.
No.
And can you explain clearly that if you're using lye in this process, Bianca is trying to find out when you're going to use the lye in this process.
I'm not. So Bianca, tonight we are using melt and pour soaps. When I use lye, it will be part of my cold process soap making class, which I do have them on my website, Nature's Crush Handmade. But if you use the link that the ladies have been posting, you can get 50% off of that class. And I will show you how to make soap with lye. We don't need to use lye on this particular soap that we are making tonight at all. It's already done its job. This is just a byproduct again. So no, we are not using lye tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that helps you.
And can you go back to what layer do you put the pitcher?
So after I poured the first layer of clear, I pour a very thin layer of clear at the bottom of my soap mold. And then immediately, so you know how with the embeds, we had to wait for that first layer to harden up. And then we put the embed in. When you're doing the pitcher, we want it to go in immediately. So we pour that thin layer of the melt and pour of clear. Then I immediately put my pitcher in there. And you will notice that the melt and pour kind of soaks up the pitcher. So you know that it's in there. I alcohol, and then I let it harden up a little bit. And then I pour another thin layer of clear melt and pour. I let that harden up. And after that hardens up, then I can add my color or whatever, my base color with the scent. The scent can go in that bottom layer.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Is there a benefit of clear glycerin versus shea butter glycerin base? Wait a minute. Are you able to use embeds with all shea butter glycerin base, but dyed different colors?
Yep. Let your imagination go wild. Let your imagination go wild. I've used glycerin soaps for, hold on. I've made strawberries. I'll find some. As I tear up the place. I've made strawberries to top my cold process soaps. So I have little you can do, glycerin soap is a lot of fun and there's a lot that you can do with it. If you find a silicone mold, you can use melt and pour in it. Okay, and kind of make anything you want. So whether it's through the pitchers, you can do that. You can use embeds. Let your imagination go wild. You can color it any way you want. You can scent it. If you want to have several layers like this soap is, you can scent each one differently if you want. That's not a problem. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for the sake of time, because I've kept you guys on here for a minute, again, I want to reiterate what I would do with your embeds. Let it sit for a little bit. Then bring it on over into your mold. Again, clear layer, your embed. Another clear layer that tops the embed. And alcohol in between each of these layers. After you do that, then you can put your color on the top, and that color layer can have your scent in it as well. But don't put your scent in the clear. All right. What brand? I purchased this one from Michael's. It's actually this was a coconut orchid. It actually smells pretty good. So I purchased this one from Michael's, but I don't know if you can see behind me, but I have a whole plethora of fragrances over there. The key thing when you're using fragrance, just make sure it's skin safe, because there are some fragrances out there that are not. So as long as it's skin safe, then you can put that in your glycerin soap. Okay. Any other questions?
Can you add coconut oil to pouring milk?
Add coconut oil to
Pour, melt and pour. Can you add coconut oil?
I would not. If you want to have additives, I would buy the base. I would buy the base with it. So for instance, tonight I was using goat's milk base. So they have different bases with different additives to it already. So I would not add anything on your own as far as the fats are concerned. The only thing I would do is the fragrances, the color, if you want to add some herbal things to make it pretty or embeds, but I wouldn't add any other fats.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you alcohol, yes, you alcohol after every layer.
Every layer. Alcohol, soap is like glue to paper. If you don't alcohol each layer, when you pop that soap out, you're going to have 3, 4, whatever, how many layers you're going to have all those layers just sitting in your hand separately. So.
What do you store the embeds in if you make them early?
I have little containers like this, but it has a seal to it. So I'm sorry. Yeah. So these are all sealed up, but I have little containers according to what it is. Like I have little chocolate pieces, I have butterflies, and then they just stay in here sealed. You can use little this plastic Tupperware. You can keep them like that. That's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think that's it that I see in the class. Everybody says that it was a great class, and they really appreciate it. They love your website and everything.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, look, if nothing else, I also showed you what not to do. It was too hot. So, but I hope you guys have fun, and just remember, just have fun. Let your imagination go wild, especially with the printed papers. I've done wedding favors with their name and a script and the established date. And I mean, just let your imagination go wild. You have a lot of fun with it. So again, if you want to learn how to do cold process soap, I have 2 classes for that. I have a basic one, and then I have a more intermediate one. The intermediate, we learn how to do the formulations, the calculations, and we learn different swirling techniques and so forth. So if you want to do that, I have 1 class in February and 1 class in March. So hope to see you there. And we'll be using live at that one. So thank you so much. Hopefully, I guess you guys are good with your questions. Feel free to reach out to me. You can DM me on Instagram. You can email me, hello@naturescrushhandmade.com. If you have any other questions about this, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you so much for supporting me this evening. I've had a good time, and I love all of you.
No, you want this yummy, yummy all in your tummy. Them more mistakes are gone. I won't do them no more. That's all.